Wilburt Company, because we are fortunate to have with us, so these chairs are being moved in for, two employees of the Wilburt Company, Larry Murgatroyd and Tom Buchanan. You'll come up, gentlemen.
We gotta move your chairs, so hang on.
One of the things we try to do as we move around the country is ask our executive presenters if they'll share with us and ask some of their workers to share with us some of their thoughts on what's happened in the company during all the changes, from obviously a very personal perspective. And today, I think we have two views that'll help enlighten us more on what happens, particularly in a small company. This is an ESOP company, remember. As people go through the changes and how it impacts them. Larry Murgatroyd, as I said earlier, is a team leader of 6 teams. He's a team supervisor. Is that correct, Larry? Coordinator. Words are very important these days. And Tom Buchanan is currently a team leader, has been a member of a team, and with both of them have been with Wilburt quite a number of years, and certainly have spent most of the time at Wilburt during these changes. Thank you, gentlemen. And why don't you start off, Larry? And we'll leave lots of time for questions.
Okay, good morning. One of the things is what it was like at Wilburt before we started all the changes, such as the teaming and education system. We were set up, structured just like most companies across the world with supervisors and things such as that. We were just coming in and doing our job, clocking in and clocking out and going home, and that's all we really did and all we really cared about. And I've been with the company roughly 6 years, and the first thing that came out was that we were going to start a math program, and nobody wanted to hear that because we couldn't see why we needed it or what it was going to do for us. And I had already been through high school and had graduated. I attended a 4-year program with the National Tool and Die, so I felt I knew it all. Well, little did I know I didn't. We started the math program, and a lot of the people simply didn't want to go. They don't have nothing to do with it. And as time went on, it was forced on us. And as some people whined and complained, but we all went. And after we went, we all felt a lot better about ourselves, and it just helped all the way along. I learned some things that everyone learned a little bit different. And from the math class, we went into basic blueprint reading, and then just all the way up through the mini MBA, and it has really helped.
Okay, I'm just a team leader, which I run a machine most of the time. I'm the oddball. I'm on second shift, afternoon shift. Been there for the last 25 years at various plants. Been at Monarch, been at Wilbur here about what, 12, 13 years. At the old Wilbur, we had a family named Bear was over there. We called the president Papa Bear, and that's how he was. You come in, he'll take care of you. Right. Well, Papa Bear died. Harry took over. We got into quite a bit of trouble with insurance problems as we ended up going ESOP. We weren't we were a non-profit organization at that time. Didn't mean to be, but we were. They put in teaming. It was not an acceptable thing with most of the men. They didn't like it. They didn't want any part of it. Now we have to go to school. Here I was, heading towards 60 and have to go back to school. You got to be kidding me. We went. We didn't have much of a choice. A lot of the people really got bitter about it. Some still are, some of the older ones. It helped us. The men figured out, well, at least we know something now. And then we took blueprint reading, advanced blueprint reading, SPC, geometric tolerancing. All of this helped. Some of your new prints that come in with geometric tolerance, unless you've been through the course, you can't even read them. You don't even know what they mean. It helped us an awful lot. Without the education, you might as well just get out of the business, because that's what it's going to come down to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind. I'm on the backside of 60 now, heading down the hill. I don't have too much more to go. I'm glad I'm at Wilburt. Still like to be an operator. The team leader job, our team, we pass it on automatically. Every year, when we started teaming, our team ended up saying, we're going to make a list. Everybody has to do it. Learn how. You're bound to know something. And I'll be a team leader for 1 year. The next team leader is already picked out. His name's on the list. He'll be at next year. The 2 days that I'm up here, he's handling the job. It's a little bit of everything, basically. You make sure everybody has a job. You check with the first shift people and say, all right, what do you want to run? They tell us. We get the stock up. You're a stock boy. You're everything. There's nothing wrong with that. We aren't union. Granted, it's easier for us. You could do it in a union shop, I'm quite sure. Union shops have done it. It would be probably a little slower to install, I would imagine. You're going to have to negotiate with the union to get it in. Nothing wrong with it. I'm glad I'm there, period.
Yes, it's a couple of questions before we open it up to the audience. What was for you, Tom, what was the toughest part of being on a team? What's the hard part?
The hard part, you got to be your own boss, more or less. I mean, when you show up for work, you better know your job, and you better know what to do, and you better be willing to do it. Nobody's going to push you. And this is strange. A lot of people kind of want to have a boss. They want to say, gee, I got a problem. Well, I'll run to Joe, and he'll fix it for me. When you're teaming, there is no Joe. There might be a group of Joes that, if you get jammed, yes, you can go get a couple of your friends on the team and say, hey, come over here. I don't know what to do with the damn thing. And they'll help. But you got to work on your own. And that's a little awkward on occasions. But I like it. It's motivation. You have a right to do things. Before, in the old days, you wouldn't dare change anything. You just didn't do it. You had to go see the boss to get it changed. Now, if you change it and make it work, it's fine as long as you can get production.
Larry, for yourself, what was as a supervisor, what was the hard part for you in all these changes?
Well, with teaming especially, I was hired in as supervisor of the gear department. And I had been doing that for roughly about 1.5 years. And I thought everything was going all right. And everybody in the plant thought everything was going all right. And then they came out with teaming, and they pulled us all in a room and said, we're going to eliminate all the supervisors. Well, I'm young, and I was ready to climb that ladder, and that ladder just fell over. And it was like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They got us involved in some classes explaining what we were going to be doing and what we were trying to achieve out of all of this. We got back in they set us in little groups and came up with teams that we knew about, and we elected our own team leaders. I was elected as a team leader of the gear and grinding department. And one of the strange things was that all of the supervisors the first time around were elected right back in as the team leaders. Basically because the people at first didn't want to have anything to do with it. And They figured, you've been doing this, you can have it. But now, since we've been doing it for roughly 3 years and holding elections, we are changing the team leaders around. And it's working out very well. Like Tom's team has had
I'm the third one.
third team leader.
I'm the third team leader.
And this October, they will switch again and have another team leader. Each team does things a little bit different. Tom's team elected to have yearly, just set it out, this is the way it was going to go. Other teams sit down and they have an election every year. We had one team that broke down. There's 10 people on that team. It was between 2 people on the team, and it was a 5-5 split. And we sat in a meeting for probably 2 hours until we came up with the conclusion of who was going to do the team leader. And finally we came to the team leader that was presently doing it. He would do it for 6 months, and the other guy would do it for 6 months, and they would go on from there. But then the team came up and said, we don't want to sit up here no more. We want to find out what we're going to do the rest of the time so we don't have to come back up here and do it again. So they drew numbers out of the hat, and that person will follow down the line. In a year, the guy that has number 2 will be the next team leader. So each team has done everything different. But that's the whole, we've seen a lot of success out of that. Because each team is different. They're running their own little company, more or less.
Questions?
I've got 2, if that's not too many. One
Please.
is, how do you set productivity standards?
Productivity
standards?
Yes, the teams track their own productivity. They track their indirect, and they track their scrap.
And how do you go about setting a standard?
We have a standard that was put on by engineering originally. All the orders come out with standards on for doing that operation. That has been tweaked a little bit back and forth since we went into teaming. We've now got a cost coordinator person that works along with the team. Part of the teaming is also pulling in all the different departments, such as engineering, sales, and things such as that, and setting up all the different things so that everyone's working together.
The second question I have is, how many employees did you lose because they didn't want to change?
We lost a production supervisor. He made his job much tougher because he was used to going to a plant superintendent and saying, I need this, this, and this for this week. And the plant superintendent took care of it and it was done. Now he had to go to this team, and that team to make sure everything flowed through. And that was awful rough on him, and he didn't understand, I don't think, why we were doing what we were doing.
I don't know, I've got an answer on that one, because overall, from the Plan 1 machining, but overall operation, the people we lost most was the management back that I had to get rid of, that would not work with the team.
Yeah, that wouldn't cooperate along with us. Right.
And plus, we lost one person in fabrication because of a reading problem, and I could not get him to work with it, and it hurt very deeply. But that was the loss. I didn't know about yours, Larry. Appreciate it.
People on the floor, I don't think we lost anybody. Everybody was...
No, we didn't lose a soul.
Yes.
Thinking back to the beginning, okay, when the concept was presented, how did the company present the concept to you? How did they sell it to you? Okay, and then what would you have told the company that you'd rather do than that?
Basically, they just, I'd say, brought it up in front of us and said, this is what we're going to do. And that created a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Because we had already been through a family-owned business going ESOP. They sprung the education system on us, and now we're going into teaming. And it was just like, when is this ever going to stop?
But did you have some other idea that would have been better?
I would see now the best way, in my opinion, would be to assemble some teams and go out and look at other companies, find out what they're doing, let them talk to their people on the floor there, how they've liked it, and the advantages and the disadvantages. We did a lot of stuff right. We did some stuff wrong.
Tom, I'd like to ask you this question. Of course, I've had the advantage of some discussion with Gary on that same issue.
Yeah.
Consensus management is a great thing if you have the time and money to evolve. Sometimes you find your back against the wall, and it's difficult to be a consensus manager at that point. Did you clearly understand the problems that really faced your company when all these changes were
just being dropped on you. Did everybody really understand
No.
that the company was difficult?
No. The general impression that the people had, the company was all right. They got their paychecks every 2 weeks. What's the problem? And of course, they weren't the information. They were not privy to all the information that they would have been able to look at and say, hey, yeah, I see we are in trouble, because it was a family-owned business. And most of them, as long as they got paid, they were in good shape, man, no problem. But looking 2020, hindsight's always 2020. And looking backwards, yeah, we were just about ready to go in the dumper, and now we're all right.
I think it'd be a real assist to have what I call full disclosure with employees before they try this kind of.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, but you got to get them to some kind of course so they know what they're looking at.
Yeah. Most of them, they can't read a balance sheet, most of them. If you cut it down real thin, they might, and say, hey, we sold this much stuff and didn't make a dime, they could understand that. Or show them a bank balance. Hey, we don't have anything in the bank, we're in trouble. That's about as far as they could get. You would have to give them a little bit of insight and a little bit of education on what they're really looking at.
Along that same line, my experience has been that American companies spend too much time implementing the change and not enough time convincing people why change has to occur. We've been through that experience in our plant, that as you say, there was bitterness. People said, why do we have to change? Everything seems fine. And we've taken the same path. But where we've taken the time, in terms of weeks, spending the time convincing people why the change has to occur first. Once you get consensus, the change has to occur.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's an open book. Okay, how do we make it happen? We've now agreed where we got to get to. And I think that's, in retrospect, that's what you're saying. A little bit more time should have been spent convincing us why the change had to occur.
Yes. With us, we were running on a real short line. We didn't have time, I don't think. It was just a case we had to do something, and we better go do it quick, and that's what management decided. And the people were quite shocked. To this day, some of them, I don't think, really understand the problem.
We found as time went on, we got people involved with the hiring of people. Now they're doing evaluations of the people on their teams, and they're running their own basic small little company. And a lot of these ideas didn't come from any book or anything. They came from people getting involved with some seminars and then coming back and says, well, why can't we be involved with the hiring of our own people on our own team? And it is working out very, very well, because they want that person, when they hire them in, they want to get the best person they can for their team, and they want that person to do well on their team. Where in the past, the older people would say, well, this guy's just after my job, so I'm not going to really show him. I've been here 20 years, I know what I'm doing, it's his job to figure out what he's doing. And that's all changed now, because the people want everyone on their team to succeed.
Yes.
I have two questions. One of them has to do with the information flow. Do you think that the people tend to believe what is being told them from management? Let's say that the company's doing poorly and you're getting a paycheck every week, and I come out and say, we're in deep trouble. First of all, would you accept that? Or would you think it was a manipulation? The second question has to do with the team itself and the authority issue. Did your teams require that the team leader have authority, and if it did, to what extent over the individual?
You want to take it?
I'll answer the second part first there. The team leaders aren't actually over the person. They're working along with them. The people, though, respect the team leader, that he's been involved with myself in production control and things such as that. So he's more or less the lead person. But that team leader also knows that he's got an election coming up, and that he has to work along with the team. That was part of the roughest thing, was getting a lot of the supervisors to get into teaming. Instead of just going and telling them to do this, now they've got to get involved with the team and find a better way of doing it. If the person raises the question of why are we doing it this way, they bring it up in the team, and they discuss it. And if it's the best way to do it, that's the way they do it, and if it's not, they change it. Where before, it was always the supervisor, he knew best, whatever he said went. And that's changed now.
Now, whether the general worker on the floor believes management, in America, I wonder. Management has a problem there, I think, personally. You tell a guy that, hey, we're in trouble, and I doubt if he'll really buy into it that quick. That's my own personal opinion. If you tell him, give him particulars why we're in trouble, then he'll go along. If you ever convince him if you can convince him that, look, we are in trouble, he'll be the first guy to help you row the boat. But you're going to have to convince him. You just can't walk out and say, hey, everybody got to take a cut in pay because we're in trouble. He'll just say, yeah, and I'll bet you aren't going to take one. The first thing it'd be out of his mouth. Say, what about all those high salaries? There's a real misconception, I think, from the floor people on how much everybody makes in top management. I think it's like us and the doctors, you know. What do doctors really make? You know, we have no idea. And I think there's a real problem there. They really don't, they think management, the top management people just make a blooming fortune. And I've even had guys tell me that this company made $17 million last year. And I said, damn it, that's the sales. That isn't how much they made. But I've actually run into this, you know. Well, they made $17 million. No, you know. And the percentage of profit to the worker on the floor, most of them don't really understand what percentage of profit is really there. They'll say, oh, they must make 50% profit. You know, well, if a company makes 50% profit, I'll be the first one there to get in line to get a job, because they're bound to pay really good wages. You know, you know. I don't know. If you can convince them, you'll be in good shape, but you're going to have to give them particulars. Yes.
When these changes occurred and you became a team leader instead of the supervisor of the department, did your compensation change, your hourly compensation?
Well, yes, it did in one respect. The team leaders, we started out with $1 an hour more than what they were presently making. So if the guy that was actually cleaning out the chip pans was elected to the team leader, he would have got a $1 increase. So,
and what happened to the supervisors? Did theirs decrease?
yes. Which I don't think would be necessarily the best thing to do. That created a lot of problems. But time is up that he will retain part of that knowledge, or part of the money that he has received, because now he's very knowledgeable about that team and can help out the next team leader, so that you don't get the, I mean, when it comes down to the bottom line, it's money in your pocket, and that's the way everybody looks at it on the floor.
For both Larry and Tom, in an effort to further delineate where responsibility lies, let me address two areas. Capital spending, who makes capital spending decisions, and who makes decisions when it comes to workforce reductions, whether it's for performance-based purposes or because business is down.
Well, let's see, on the work performance, if I see I have a problem, I get with Larry, because he's a team coordinator, and we go over it. And if it's somebody on one of our CNCs, well, we pull in the programmer, then we'll pull in the head programmer, talk to him, and see where we're going. And then the first thing we do, after that, we'll go out and say, look, you aren't producing enough, your production's down, what can we do to help?
Larry, why don't you go through the quality person we hired last year and what happened and what happened to the team did with?
We had an opening in our quality department, and they had to go outside and hire a person from another company. And he was an older gentleman, and he came in and basically was doing a good job up until he came out and said, one of the guys, well, that's good enough for a place like this. With the equipment you've got, that's the best I guess we can do, and accepted the part, and out it went. That went through the plant like wildfire. And everybody got on the guy right off the bat and said, if this is the way you're going to be, we don't want you here. Because, you know, we want to make the best product we possibly can, and there's no such thing as what's good enough for us or good enough for here. And he was let go. And that was a rough situation to go through, because these guys never have really dealt with anything like that before. But everything we do, we just bring it up in a team leader meeting, and we discuss it and get the team leaders involved. They take it back to their teams, and they discuss in their team meetings what's going on. And then we get back the next week with our team leaders again, and everybody, a lot of teams will go different totally. You know, one team maybe that didn't affect as much, other teams it will. So it's just, the communication is much better than it ever was before. Because it's constantly...
Every week we have a formal team leader meeting. All the team leaders on all the shifts come in, and Larry leads it. We go over everything, the production, hot lists, stuff that, you know, here's what we need to have out by such and such a date. We go over all that. Where are we? When's the material due in? If you see it come in, get on it. Go over all the rejection slips. What happened here? What happened there? You know, have an answer. Any information coming out of the front office will be relayed through Larry to us, so we know what's going on. And that evening on our shift, like on second, I have a team meeting right then and there. Lasts maybe about half an hour, and we go over all of it again with them, so the boys on the floor know what's going on. I think that's the key to it. You got to pass the information down, and try to keep it the same information. Don't sour it up going down and sweeten it up going up. That happens all the time.
Someone write that down.
Larry, were you elected to the group team leader or whatever?
No, I was put there by our plant manager.
Yeah, he's the one I go to.
Now, if I've got a question that they ask me and I can't answer, I call right then and the person, and we get an answer. There's been a couple of times where I've called over to Harry's office, and I said, you got a second? You know, what's going on here? He'll come across the street, sit down in the meeting, and we get it out right then and there.
We reduced 2 plant managers in the last 5-6 years, and so one plant manager is not running 4 plants, in fact, except he's not, because the Larrys, we just moved a different way. And that's when Larry came in as teams manager about a year ago, was it?
Yeah.
And it's been highly effective. I was very scared when we did it, but you know, it's like everything else. You fear the unknown, and you drive forward, and you find out that your fears were just baseless, just totally baseless.
Harry, what were the qualifications you were looking at when you hired Larry?
We were looking for a gear operator and a machinist that I preferred and told the person who hired him had complete apprenticeship, Larry, and master license.
Okay, but when he was promoted to this coordinator of teams, what were you looking for?
I was consulted on it, and I look for calmness. I look for ability to work with people, to manage people from the standpoint of daily life. I look for caring for people. It's one of the first things I write down. And then qualifications come after that. And Larry has been very effective from the standpoint of suggestions. We do not have a suggestion program. I don't believe in them. But he's been very effective suggestions. He's been very effective from coming forth on when we were way back
not into the old program. He's not one to sweeten it coming up. Okay?
Neither was the other guy.
Dan, you had a question.
Well, part of the question was answered, but you indicated earlier that the initial team leaders who were elected were supervisors, the old supervisors. Since that time, have other team members, shop floor workers, moved up and become elected as team leaders? And what's the balance now, would you say?
Half.
About half, yeah. About half of them.
Yeah.
Do you have a formal performance review program, and if so, who conducts it, who fills it out?
What we're starting, we just started this year, is I took the team leaders and said, how do you think we should handle this for appraisals? And because we want to do something a little bit different, because since we actually had, before the plant manager used to do it, since we actually didn't have a plant manager anymore, we had to do something a little bit different. So we sat down with the team leaders and discussed a lot of different things, and they took it back to their teams, and we worked on it, what, a good month and a half?
About a month and a half.
And we came back with basically 3 people on that particular team will interview whoever is in that month or do an appraisal on that person that's due in that month. And those people will rotate. And we've taken the most senior person on that team that's been with the company and the person that just may be hired in, and we put a team together of 3 and they do an evaluation. And we pull in people from personnel to help and go over it, and then I review it, and then it goes across the street. We review it with the person, and it's taken care of. And that could change. I mean, we just started doing it, so if it doesn't work out, we'll change it.
We'll change it.
How do you interface with customers? Do you go through the marketing or sales department, or do you go direct to customers sometimes?
Depends. Some of our bigger customers, we go through our sales department and get involved and go right out with our salespeople and answer the problems. And one thing that I've noticed is the customers eat this up, because they're now talking to the person that is doing the job, and we've had some suggestions that have saved the customers a lot of money. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we putting this cap on here now? Just because you're requesting it. It'd be so much easier for us to do it this way. And we get with their engineering department and we work it out, and we've saved a lot of money and time that way.
This is hard to break up, but it's lunchtime, and we will have a chance the rest of this afternoon. Larry and Tom will be with Harry as they move around to the 3 breakout groups. Let me tell you briefly what's going to happen. You'll get a chance to speak with each of the executives this afternoon. They're going to move from group to group, so everybody will have a chance with everybody to dig deeper. Larry and Tom will be here throughout the day and at the reception. And